a Skidder. Cat 525B, 2002, 22,000 hours. So been working on selling some firewood and probably working towards maybe milling and selling lumber. And I have a excavator, a 308 Cat, but I got a lot of woods and some really big trees, and I sensed, so I've been beating on the excavator pretty hard, trailering wood out and doing all the forestry things with it, and it's killing it. It does it all, it really does, but need a second machine for many reasons, such as loading and unloading in different locations and traveling long distances, pulling heavy things. So I went through the process of figuring out, like, do I need a skid steer, a tractor, Bobcat Toolcat, another truck that's like highly modified for the woods. And I kind of ended up on everything was good in its own way, but either not powerful enough for forestry stuff, or it didn't flow enough hydraulic fluid to potentially run saws and splitters or anything like that. So as crazy and ridiculous it is to be a not logger and own a skidder, well, this is what I ended up coming up with. So once I figured out I wanted a skidder, and then I went through the Facebook and, YouTubes and figuring out what I should do with that. These things can be really expensive. I think this one, adjusted for inflation, today would be about 330 grand, which is not my budget. Not my budget at all. So we kind of shied away from anything like that. And I know older skidders, all the way down to the 60s, can be really great, but they're starting to approach the teens and 20K, somewhere in there. And started looking at older, newer skidders that are just worked and clapped. Kind of settled on that. So ended up getting this for 12 grand. And it does everything it should do. It runs, drives, stops. It does not have a parking brake, which is why I parked on a hill right now, and it won't hold in gear when you shut it off, because no parking brake. But it's chalked. But you end up getting like a lot of really nice things that the older skidders don't have for the same price. And yeah, it's probably more expensive to fix, but there's just so much, such as this grapple, which is huge. Usually old skidders are winch only, rotator, even though this one it's not continuous, so there's it's just a bit older. and you just get tons of hydraulic power. I believe this thing flows 50 gallons a minute of hydraulic fluid, which is absurd. I imagine you get a splitter or something to run at a crazy cycle time. So yeah, I needed another forestry tool and decided to go big. Yeah, once again, 22,000 hours. I can't believe that it even runs. This was a Cat 3 126 motor, which is like a school bus motor pretty much. Has a Huey injection system, which like isn't the best, but as far as I understand, if you keep the oil changed and run the right stuff, it can be quite reliable. You get a blade with some power behind it, you know, maybe it's not a bulldozer, but it can definitely build roads and pick itself up to change tires or anything like that. And come on up into the cab here. Man, even the door is like heavy. I gotta climb up there and I gotta hold this door because we're on this hill. So just a go pedal and a brake. Super easy to run. That's your blade lever. The Cat steering system is like, I think it only turns about a third. So it's a little interesting getting used to. It's really sensitive. Kind of like, more like a piece of equipment. Air ride seat blown out, that's fine. 3 cushions for the height you need to be comfortable. But yeah, we got some like joystick control. The AC definitely doesn't work, but I think the heat does. Full lockers, front and rear. There's your parking brake lever that doesn't work. I believe it has a torque converter and gear lockout. And like grapple sensitivity, or like I would call this maybe like a grapple float without knowing the right words. What it does is it keeps continuous pressure on the logs on the grapple. Yeah, nice place to spin. I mean, yeah, if it's raining, you're not wet like a open cab tractor, and just a lot of benefits to going this big. The view. Windows pre-scratched up. That's okay. I think it holds about 85 gallons of fuel. These tires are the 30.5-32, so they're a little narrower and probably would chain it up. They're absolutely terrible though. But I'll probably run them till they're flat. You know, these things are meant to be run full throttle 10 hours a day plus every day. And it shows. But as when I'm going to be using it, it's definitely not like that. So I'm hoping it will last a long, long time. Do have to sort this parking brake though. It is very dangerous being at free spools when it's shut down. So I need to find flat ground every time I park. You know, doors shut. My expectations were really low, and I'm blown away. What a machine. $12,000. I don't think you're finding a 4-wheel drive tractor for that. It ain't driving off the truck. Or definitely not 200 plus horsepower. Or whatever this is, 180 maybe. But yeah, snuck it up this trail. And now I kind of got to cut my way up to some flat ground. I'm just going to park it for the night and trees are nipped. A lot of them got hung up. So we're gonna use that big yellow thing to get them unhung up. Got myself into a pickle there. So we're learning together. A little embarrassed first crack at this, but we're gonna learn. Tight to that tree. Slipped off the trail more or less. Still don't have a parking brake, but that guy's hung up. Boy, you gotta be crazy careful, but you can see got the tree between the tires and I'm wedged up on a rock. Kind of thinking of cutting that tree and just driving ahead. Well, that went pretty bad there, but gosh, this thing's a beast. So got stuck between that tree. Pretty much the only way out is to back down this cliff here. But still running and driving. I don't know if I'm getting back up here though. Maybe I will. Do a little blade work. Alright, well, we had that pretty big mistake yesterday when I got wedged between that tree, that rock, and this cliffside here. It kind of gave way on me. The intention was to head up there, but we ended up down there. So I think we made the best of it. It's kind of good to learn on some flat ground down there too, I feel like. But yeah, that was first time really using a skidder, and I wanted access down there anyways, so I figured kind of just putt around.